house hung in an unsettling stillness that afternoon, a silence so profound it drew attention to the faint hum of the fridge and the distant melody of birdsong outside. In the dim light of the living room, I found myself adrift, mindlessly flipping through the pages of a magazine, the words blurring into a haze as I lost myself in thought. My husband, Daniel, was off on yet another business trip, leaving me alone in the quiet of our home. I felt no disturbance. The familiar cadence had settled into a predictable rhythm. Yet the emptiness loomed larger than ever before. My eyes flicked to my phone, a surge of anticipation coursing through me. But the screen remained stubbornly blank. The stillness underscored the monotony that had seeped into every corner of my existence. What once felt like a soothing embrace now stood as an unyielding wall. I was captivated by Daniel, or so I believed. Yet, as the days turned into weeks, an undeniable change began to unfold. What once ignited a fierce flame of passion had settled into a warm embrace of comfort. But that very comfort had slowly morphed into a dangerous complacency. The sharp echo of a car door slamming shattered the stillness, reverberating through the air like a warning bell. I cautiously leaned closer to the window, my heart racing as I caught sight of my nephew, Jake, making his way toward the house. He was the son of Daniel's younger brother. I swung the door wide, and there stood Jake, my nephew, on the porch, a confident smile lighting up his face. "Hey, Jake, what draws you to this place?" I inquired, concealing my astonishment. Uncle Daniel beckoned me to retrieve the documents he had forgotten, his eyes glinting with an irresistible charm. "I trust this isn't an inconvenient moment." I moved aside, granting him entry into the unknown. "Absolutely not. Step inside." As he stepped inside, I couldn't help but observe the way he glided through the space, infusing the atmosphere with an electrifying energy. He hurled his bag onto the couch, his eyes scanning the room with a mix of anticipation and unease. "The ambience is as captivating as ever. Your taste is impeccable," and a soft laugh escaped my lips, brushing aside the compliment like a fleeting shadow. "Sweet words won't save you from the storm that brews ahead. What documents do you seek?" Jake let out a dismissive shrug, the weight of the moment hanging heavily in the air. There was a whisper of something hidden within the property papers, a secret waiting to be uncovered. As he made his way to the study, a wave of thoughts washed over me, contrasting him sharply with Daniel. Jake burst into my life like a whirlwind, his spontaneity and charm igniting a spark I hadn't felt in ages. His unapologetic self-assurance was a breath of fresh air, filling the void that had lingered far too long. I brushed the thought aside, a hint of embarrassment creeping in. He was family, after all, bound by blood and shared memories that echoed through the years. But then Jake burst back into the room, papers in hand, his sleeves rolled up to unveil a striking tattoo etched on his forearm. As I gazed at Jake's tattoo, he caught my eye and a smirk danced across his lips. "Do you like it?" he asked, his eyes glinting with mischief. "It's intriguing," I responded, a flush of embarrassment creeping over me. We settled into our seats, the air thick with anticipation, as we exchanged tales and bursts of laughter, each moment weaving us closer together in a tapestry of shared experience. Jake's stories burst with life and laughter, a vivid escape from the dull routine that had become my everyday existence. In that fleeting instant, all else faded away. My husband, the weight of my responsibilities, the silent codes of propriety that govern our lives. It was just Jake and me, two souls entwined in a bond that defied explanation. The words danced between us, weaving an intimate tapestry that enveloped the room in a warmth I had long forgotten. Jake reclined on the couch, his gaze locking onto mine for a heartbeat longer than necessary as he began to speak. His attentive gaze, the way he hung on every word I uttered, was disarming, almost intoxicating, drawing me into a world where only we existed. In a fleeting moment, Jake's hand brushed against mine as he reached for the glass of water on the coffee table, igniting a spark that lingered in the air between us. The encounter was fleeting, yet it etched an indelible mark in my thoughts. I instinctively recoiled, a nervous laugh escaping my lips, yet the warmth creeping into my cheeks betrayed the turmoil within me. "Do you dare to ask?" Jake asked, his voice fading into a whisper as he locked his gaze onto mine, an intensity in his eyes that sent my heart racing. Though Jake spoke with a casual tone, his eyes bore into mine with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. "Without hesitation," I replied, rising to my feet to put some space between us. "The air is thick with warmth, enveloping everything in a gentle embrace." As I moved through the kitchen, the clatter of pots and pans echoed my restless thoughts, each sound a desperate attempt to dispel the heavy tension that clung to the air. Yet, even from the farthest corner of the room, I could feel the undeniable pull of Jake's presence. As I glanced over my shoulder, he emerged in the doorway, a figure of effortless confidence, casually leaning against the frame, commanding the space around him. "You seem different today," he remarked, his voice a gentle whisper that hung in the air. "In what way does it differ?" I fought to mask my emotions, striving for an air of indifference. Jake's words struck me like a bolt from the blue. Uncertainty loomed like a shadow, wrapping around me, leaving me adrift in a sea of questions, perhaps even more vibrant. His tone carried a weight of sincerity that rendered any thought of flattery utterly impossible to entertain. A wave of recognition washed over me, a sensation so profound it sent shivers down my spine, and I found myself gripped by an unsettling fear. "Jake, you should probably go soon," I said at last, my eyes drifting away from his piercing stare. What drives this question? What lies beneath the surface of that simple word? A quest for understanding, a yearning for clarity, or perhaps a deep-seated curiosity that beckons for answers? Why? The echoes of this inquiry ripple through the air, inviting exploration and igniting the imagination. He inched forward, his presence looming larger in the dim light. I shot back a response, my mind racing with unspoken thoughts. Only, he locked his gaze onto mine, and in that moment I found myself speechless. Perhaps I did, yet the words remained trapped within me, refusing to escape. The atmosphere crackled with intensity, thick with the weight of unsaid words and hidden emotions that lingered just beyond reach. Jake loomed closer, and I could sense my resolve beginning to crumble. "This isn't right," I whispered, the words slipping from my lips like a secret meant only for the shadows, more to myself than to Jake. "I know," he said, his voice a low murmur, steady as the calm before a storm. "But doesn't it stir something deep within?" As I gazed up at him, my heart pounded wildly in my chest. In that fleeting instant, everything beyond vanished into oblivion. We were alone, caught in a fleeting instant that seemed to defy reality, yet was destined to unfold. Jake extended his hand, his fingers grazing against mine, in a fleeting moment that sent a shiver down my spine. I remained right there, refusing to let go. The room closed in, the space between us dissolving like a mirage, leaving only the intensity of our connection in its wake. My mind roared with urgency, urging me to halt, to retreat, to weigh the impending consequences. Yet, I found myself frozen in place. Just as the tension reached its zenith, the creak of the front door swinging open shattered the charged silence. My heart raced, pounding against my throat, as Jake and I instinctively pulled apart, our gazes snapping toward the source of the sound. In the dim light of the doorway, Jake's cousin lingered, his face a canvas of confusion and suspicion, as if he were caught in a moment that held secrets just beyond his grasp. "Hey," Jake said, his voice low and measured, his gaze flickering nervously between us. "Have I stumbled upon something I shouldn't have?" "No, of course not," I replied, the laughter escaping my lips like a brittle echo, leaving a chill in the air that even I could sense. As Jake prepared to step out, he paused momentarily, reaching for the papers he had promised to retrieve for me. With a casual grin, Jake turned to his cousin, the air thick with unspoken stories and shared memories. "Indeed, is that so?" Caleb, his cousin, arched an eyebrow, skepticism etched across his face. As I struggled to regain my composure, Jake pivoted to depart, his gaze piercing through the air to meet mine in a fleeting, electric instant. "I suppose it's good timing," Caleb remarked, his voice devoid of emotion. My uncle summoned me to his place, requesting that I retrieve the same papers once more. A wave of nausea washed over me as the truth of Jake's deception came to light. Caleb stood before me, a haunting reminder of the precipice I had almost teetered over, and a tide of shame surged through me, overwhelming and relentless. A wave of urgency surged through me as I exclaimed, "I think there's been a misunderstanding." My heart raced, and I fought to reclaim control over the spiraling chaos around us. "Jake possesses the documents now. Your presence is unnecessary here." Caleb remained still, his gaze sharpening with intensity. "Strangely enough, he never hinted that you would be present." Jake shrugged, his relaxed facade unwavering. "I never believed it would make a difference." We were lost in conversation, the world around us fading away. Nothing else mattered. The words lingered in the air, appearing innocuous at first glance, yet brimming with unvoiced significance. Caleb's eyes bore into me, a lingering intensity that stretched the air between us, making the moment feel charged and electric. With a final, clipped remark, he stepped away, the door creaking softly as he left it ajar, a lingering tension hanging in the air. The silence that followed was suffocating, wrapping around like a heavy shroud. Jake's gaze pierced through me, his expression a cryptic enigma that left me on edge.